There are dozens of AI tools for legal teams right now, and the best one for you depends on the job you need done. Now, as a lawyer who's spent years building AI for legal teams, I've tried pretty much every tool out there and found the ones that are actually useful. So today, I'm going to give you an honest review for each one. We'll cover the best ones for reviewing contracts, for researching the law, or for running discovery. But before I get into the specific tools, let's get the big question out of the way. The one I know a lot of you are already thinking. Why not just use ChatGPT or Claude for all of this? It's a fair question because the general AI tools are really great for quickly scanning a standard NDA, pulling out a summary for a non-lawyer, or getting a head start on a draft. So yeah, for low stakes work, they're awesome. And I'll be honest with you, I use Claude myself all the time. Email drafts, strategy analysis, and concept development. It even helped me sharpen the script for this very video. So this isn't a lecture against general AI. I'm probably a heavier user than most of you. But there's a whole category of legal work I'd never hand it. And not because the model isn't smart enough. It's because it doesn't know my company. It doesn't know which position Legartis accepts, which risks we've decided to live with, or what we agreed to in the last negotiation. And legal work without that context is guesswork. So no, it doesn't get anywhere near the final review on a contract we're about to sign. Where it gets risky is the moment a contract or a deal that depends on goes through a general tool. The accuracy isn't there for a review you'd put your name on. It doesn't know the rules your business has already set. And for a European team, the data and privilege questions alone should give you pause. I actually made a whole video breaking down exactly where general AI works for legal teams and where it breaks. So instead of repeating all of that here, I'll link it below. The short version though, general AI is a great place to start, and purpose-built legal AI is what you use on the contracts that carry the most risk. And the tools I'll cover next exist because a general model can't provide the accuracy, playbook enforcement, or compliance a legal team needs to put its name on a review. By the way, if you think Legartis is a good fit, I'll leave a link at the top of the description to book a demo. Let's start with contract review because it's usually the first job a legal team automates and the one you do most. When you're getting through dozens of NDAs, vendor agreements, and procurement contracts a week, the slow, repetitive review is the part that takes your team the longest. So this is the category where the right tool saves you the most hours, which is why it leads the list. And I keep hearing the same story from in-house teams here. A lawyer at a mid-sized European company told me recently that their co-pilot starts making things up the moment it pulls from the web. And worse, it agrees with her every time, which is the last thing you want in a contract review. But her real battle was internal. She had to explain to her own IT department why we already have co-pilot doesn't cover legal work. If that sounds familiar, this very category is for you. The first tool here is Legartis. And full disclosure, this is my own company, so I'm obviously biased. But just like every other tool here, I'll tell you exactly where it fits and where it doesn't. It's our AI legal platform, and its main job is to let you review every contract against your own playbook. A playbook is basically your company's rulebook for contracts, the position you'll accept, the ones you push back on, and when a deal needs a senior lawyer. So every contract gets checked against the standards your business has already set, keeping the output consistent across your whole team. Now, what a legal team actually needs is the ability to check the AI's work, and that's something we built in called user tuning. Before you rely on it, it runs a batch of your own contracts and shows you exactly how it applied each rule, so you can see its reasoning and correct anything it got wrong. Then it gives you a reliability grade from 0 to 1 for each clause, showing how accurately it applies that rule that we technically call the F1 score. And the part I like most about this, you decide what score is good enough. You set the threshold clause by clause, so you control where the quality check really matters. Your liability clause might need to be near perfect before you trust the AI with them, while a standard formality can run at a lower bar. So in practice, the review that used to slow your team down just gets done way faster. And because these contracts contain personal data, everything runs on Swiss servers, so they remain compliant with GDPR and the Swiss data law. With all that said, Legartis fits best in high-volume contract review where you need consistent standards and an answer you can defend. Now look, if your real problem is cross-border litigation, that's not us, and I'll point you to a better option for that in a minute. The next tool, and the one you've probably already heard of, is Harvey, the big legal AI platform built for large law firms. And the name actually comes from Harvey Specter, the lawyer from the show Suits. It's mostly used by large international firms doing litigation, M&A, and drafting all in one place. And I see that in my own conversations. A partner, large Swiss firm, told me recently, Harvey is generally the tool his team uses every day to review contracts, adapts documents, and answer legal questions. For that kind of work at a big firm, it definitely delivers. So if that's you, it's a great option. For an in-house team though, there are 3 things you'll want to know. First, data residency. And to be fair to Harvey here, they've added EU and Swiss processing regions, so the old Harvey is US hosted line you still hear isn't the full picture anymore. But here's the question your data protection officer will actually ask, and it's the one you should ask every vendor on this list, including us. Not just where the servers are located, but which jurisdiction the company and its entire sub-processor chain answers to. Harvey is a US company, so US law, like the Cloud Act, applies regardless of where the servers sit. For some European teams, that's acceptable. For others, it's a deal breaker, and that's a call only you can make. Then there's the price. I'm not going to quote numbers because they change and they're negotiated, but I'll tell you what a lawyer on a mid-sized European in-house team told me after her team evaluated it. She said it's probably the most expensive legal AI on the market, and she didn't see how she was going to justify that internally. That's a reaction I hear a lot from in-house teams because the pricing is built for large firms with large budgets. And from what I've seen in the deals we've come across, it's still catching up on German contract law. So I wouldn't give the complexities of German contracts just yet. So that covers contract review, but much of legal work is the opposite problem. You need to find out what the law actually says. This is a different job from contract review, and the tools built for it are built around legal databases, not your own contract. So if your team spends a lot of time on case law and research, these next 2 are the ones to look at. The first is Thomson Reuters CoConsole, an AI assistant that runs on Thomson Reuters Westlaw case law database. Its big selling point is that every answer comes with citations pulled straight from Westlaw, so you can open the source and confirm it yourself. So it's a good fit if you need research you can trust, especially for US litigation or cross-border deals under US law. It's less of a fit though if most of your work is outside the US, since Westlaw is a US case law platform with US pricing. So outside of US exposure, you end up paying for a large library you'll rarely open. Next is Beck-Noxtua, a legal AI designed specifically for the German-speaking market and built by CH Beck, Germany's largest legal publisher. What makes it different is that it's trained on Beck's German legal database and runs entirely on European service with no US cloud involved. So for a team that works in German law and wants research that actually covers their own jurisdiction, it's the most local option on this list. The main downside is that it's a research tool at heart, so it's not designed for high volume contract reviews and doesn't offer the same depth outside of Germany. So if your main problem is getting through contracts, this isn't a tool for that job, but for German legal research, it's hard to beat. Alright, so research and review are both about reading contracts, but there's a separate, often underestimated job, managing a contract from start to finish. That's everything around the contract itself, drafting it, routing it for approvals, getting it signed, and keeping it somewhere you can actually find it later. That whole process is called contract lifecycle management, or CLM, and a leader in that category is Ironclad. Ironclad is the system that runs that entire workflow, and it's been a top-rated CLM platform for years, used by companies like Salesforce to manage their own contracts. It handles drafting, approval routing, e-signature, and a system to keep all your contracts in one place, so nothing gets lost in someone's inbox. So if your problem is keeping the whole process organized, that's the job Ironclad is built for. The limitation with it is that it manages the contract but doesn't do the deep clause-by-clause review a dedicated analysis tool does. That's why many teams run an analysis tool like Legartis on the contract first, then move the approved version into a CLM like Ironclad. It also offers European hosting options, but like Harvey, US company, so the same jurisdiction question from earlier applies here too, and you should ask it before you commit. So those first 3 jobs are all day-to-day work, but the next one only comes up when something goes wrong, and that's finding the right documents in a dispute. When you're in litigation, you can be facing tens of thousands of documents that all might be relevant, and reading every one by hand is impossible. We call this process e-discovery. And full transparency again, e-discovery is outside my own daily work. So unlike the review tools, I'm not speaking from hands-on experience here. But the name that keeps coming up for this job is Everlaw. Everlaw is a cloud-based e-discovery platform that sorts and clusters tens of thousands of documents at once. So the relevant ones show up first, with your team having to read all of them. It groups related documents, threads, and email chains and learns what you're looking for as you tag. So the search gets more accurate the more you use it. So if your team handles much of its own discovery, this is what makes it impossible without anyone reading every page. Where Everlaw is less of a fit is if your team rarely handles its own litigation, because it's designed for major litigation where you're dealing with huge volumes of documents. So if discovery only comes up once in a while, this is a tool you'll bring in for complex disputes, and most teams won't need it running all year. Now, out of all the tools I covered today, the job taking up most of your team's time is reviewing a high volume of contracts, and you want a contract review tool you can actually trust, where you can see exactly how it reached every answer, then you can book a demo with Legartis by clicking the first link below this video. On the call, we'll run it against your own contracts so you can see exactly what it catches and the F1 score it achieves on your clauses, and then walk you through what setting it up for your team would look like. So again, you can book that demo by clicking the link below this video. If you want to learn more about using Claude for contract review, check out this video next.